It's time for the Lowell Green Show, originating live on blasttheradio.com. Ask your smart speaker to play Blast the Radio. Live video available on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. The number to call or text is 613-413-2217. And now, telling it like it is, here's Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. And as usual, folks, anything that you would like to discuss, any topic you think we should be raising here, anything you'd like me to research, let us know. The phone lines are always open. The texts are always available for you, emails, etc., etc. I have a number of questions for you that I'd like your opinion on. Schools, as you now know, are to remain closed until September. Is this the right decision, in your opinion? I asked this yesterday, and quite a few of you seem to think that it probably was a good idea to leave them closed. There's only, 3 weeks left? But opinion, no question, is very split on this. Some medical professionals are saying that this is the prudent decision. One of the things, I was talking with Ford's office. I wasn't able to talk with Doug himself, but one of the things that we're really worried about is this new, very deadly variant, the COVID variant that's still ravaging India. We can't call it the Indian COVID anymore. It's now called Delta. But they tell us that it is now spreading very rapidly across the province. It's into some of the long-term care homes. And they say the medical profession is telling us that they expect that within a month, this Delta strain will be the predominant strain in the province, and it is much more infectious. One of the very worrisome things about this new variant is, at least when it comes to the AstraZeneca vaccine, one dose against this new variant is somewhere only between 30 and 40% effective. 2 doses somewhere between 80 and 90% effective. And this is one of the reasons, folks, that we have, in fact, today there are 28 outbreaks in different long-term care homes in Ontario, 28 outbreaks of varying degrees. And in many cases, people who have had both doses have become infected again. Now, John, you asked a very good question. They become infected after both doses, but is it as serious as it was before?
Right.
I don't know. I suspect not. I think this is one of the great advantages of the vaccine.
Well, that's just it. And hence my question, right? We're being told the vaccines are not going to eradicate this, and they're not going to prevent you from getting it, but they will minimize the symptoms.
Yeah, but the new variant is not only is it much more highly infectious, but it is obviously more resistant to the present vaccines than we've had in the past.
Oh boy.
What I have been told, and this is unofficial, of course, but what I have been told is that if this was just the run-of-the-mill, let's say COVID-19, the first pandemic that broke out, that in all probability we would be at least partially open in the province right now. But because of this new variant, they've got to be much more cautious because, as I say, it's not the vaccines aren't as effective against it as they are against some of the other strains, and it's much more infectious. Well, we only have to look at India to see how infectious that is. And of course, one of the great dilemmas here, and I throw this as a question. I know that there are some liberals who listen, sometimes just to poke fun at me and so forth, but I that's fine. I don't understand why you liberals are allowing your prime minister, the man that you elected and the man you still support, to allow our airports still to be essentially wide open. We are importing on a daily basis. Even today, we are still importing some of these highly infectious new mutations, new strains. Very clearly, and Doug Ford made an appeal again yesterday, and this is about the 8th or 9th time he has appealed directly to the Prime Minister. Mr. Prime Minister, either shut these airports down or tighten the security greatly. We are still importing these deadly strains. In fact, Ford said yesterday, were it not for the importation of these new deadly strains, particularly the Delta, in all probability, we would be able to open the schools. but they are deadly. I repeat, they are afraid of this new deadly strain. So I don't understand why you liberals are not pressing your prime minister to take the step that most other nations have taken, stop the importation of these new deadly strains. We are still allowing flights in from places that where COVID is rampant. We're doing, and John, you pointed this out. I mean, we are doing our share here. We're closing down businesses. People are going bankrupt, losing their homes, losing their jobs, losing their minds, and doing what we are supposed to do. Meantime, the Prime Minister still allows people to fly in from COVID-ravaged nations, in many cases on a daily basis, infected.
Come on into Canada. The party's on. Woo!
I don't understand.
No, I don't get it either, and it really upsets me.
Don't understand why you liberals allow this. Very clearly, I mean, Trudeau is not going to listen to a conservative. I just don't understand why you liberals don't pressure him. If I were a liberal, I would be raising bloody hell about this.
See, but something like that, Lowell, that's not a political thing. That's not a party thing. That's just a common sense thing.
You would think so.
Yes.
You would hope so.
Yes.
By the way, talking about the schools not opening up until September, I'd like your opinion whether you think that's the right decision. But I'd like your opinion on another issue. When the schools do open, should teachers be compelled to be vaccinated? Would you object if a non-vaccinated teacher were teaching in your child's class? This, of course, is what's happening in many of the long-term care homes. Unvaccinated workers, in some cases 20, 30% of the workers who come in on a daily basis are not vaccinated. They refuse. And as a consequence, they continue to spread not only in the homes, but elsewhere. As you all know, I had a very dear friend who died because of that very situation. Now, the province is taking some action. They're saying, listen, we want you, if you're going to work in a long-term care home, to be vaccinated. But apparently the province feels it cannot compel them. But if you're not going to get vaccinated, the province will make you take a course in the importance of vaccination. But my question to you is this, and by the way, Doug Ford's office is listening to this show, so speak up. Should teachers, when we return to class, should they have to be vaccinated? Would you allow your child, whether she is vaccinated or not, to be in a classroom being taught by an unvaccinated teacher? And I guess I could ask the same question about should unvaccinated caretakers be allowed into the classroom as well, but particularly the teacher who's walking up and down the aisles very close to your student. Should they be vaccinated? What's your feeling on that? Barry is my good old friend Barry. Haven't heard from Barry in 2 or 3 days. Barry, what's your take on any of this?
Well,
Barry,
Lowell,
please.
I agree with you on all of it, Lowell. I think the teachers, everyone should be vaccinated. And this is what I mentioned, I think, in a text to you about, once they start to open things up, it might not be up to the government to have a passport vaccine. A lot of big businesses and public events like the Red Blacks games and CFL, Major League Baseball, especially up here, seeing as we're letting the Blue Jays stay in the States. For now, I think that a lot of these big organizations are going to have to say that you have to show some sort of proof of vaccination before you can attend an event and sit right beside somebody without being masked or without being, distance from people.
Well,
and I think,
I agree with you. That's sort of a side issue as to whether teachers and long-term care workers, but let's deal with teachers right now. In your opinion, Barry, should teachers have to be vaccinated before they go into the classroom?
Oh, most definitely. This is where I say, any large gathering other than larger than 10 people, that's a public event, whoever's putting it on or that sort of type thing, just for liability and regulations. The government doesn't have to make everyone have a vaccine passport, but they could put out new laws or regulations saying that any kind of gathering above so many people would have to whoever is putting on the event would have to check for proof of vaccination. And the simplest way to do that would be have someone, whether it's law or not, but have someone that, likes making up lots of plastic cards like Ontario does, have everyone apply for a proof of vaccination. And then when they've got a card that's official, it looks just like your driver's license or your health card, they can go to an event.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, in fact, in the United States, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but in some of the ball diamonds, there are special sections. If you've been fully vaccinated, and almost 50% of the U.S. population has, you can go into a certain area. It's called a vaccination area. So it's already begun. There's no question that I'll bet you dollars to donuts that very shortly you will not be able to get onto an airplane and go anywhere unless you have proof of vaccination. Barry, thank you for your call, sir. Good to hear from you again. Thank you,
I got one more point. More point, Lowell.
I'm sorry?
I say I've got one more point, and that's why has our phony boy prime minister and the media all fallen asleep, it seems, on the two Michaels. Haven't heard a thing for weeks about the two Michaels. Whether they're going to send Miss Huawei back to China, and now that we've got the U.S. hassling us on a bunch of our trade deals, and probably the U.S. government probably doesn't even like Justin Trudeau either, because he's such a phony and he hasn't done anything.
Okay, all right, we got to move on here, Barry. I think it's a very valid question. As a matter of fact, there was an editorial, I forget who wrote it, or a commentary in one of the papers today saying it's time to begin negotiations. Obviously, what we're doing now is not working. The fact of the matter is that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals don't give a sweet flying fox fart about the two Michaels or anybody else, particularly if in any way what they say or do would offend China. For some reason, our Prime Minister is in love with China. We've seen evidence of that again and again and again. We even have in that high security laboratory in Winnipeg experimenting with highly dangerous drugs and gases. We have at least two members of the Chinese military working side by side, and the Prime Minister won't tell us give us any information about it. Thank you for the call, Barry. Thank you, sir. Good to hear from you. Text coming in. Yes, John.
Yeah, we do. 613-413-2217 is the number here, by the way. Here's a text from Tom who says, I think any teacher or custodian that would entertain the idea of being around a school and children without having their shots are not the type of people that we need around our children. Celadrew says, no way, Barry. Keep your making sure everyone gets vaccinated BS to yourself. Leanne says, what about the $2,000 hotel stays after coming back into our own country? When is that ending? The Micro Guy says, keep them closed. Why open them for 3 weeks? Talking about schools, of course, and expose everyone to unnecessary risk. Another Tom says, how about Air Canada giving out millions of dollars in bonuses and still asking for a bailout?
Isn't that beauty? Let me just comment about it. That's beautiful. So the Air Canada comes to the taxpayers. It's not Trudeau's money. He's not giving away any of his money. He's giving away our money. So he gives, I don't know how many millions of dollars to Air Canada, supposedly to keep their employees working. And what happens? Air Canada is giving its executives a $10 million bonus, and taken from us. You and me are paying the bonuses for Air Canada. For God's sake. Randy's on the phone. Yes, Randy. Good to hear from you, sir.
Hi, it's not a sir.
Sorry, Randy. Okay.
That's okay.
Yes.
The school issue. I think it's a really, really tough issue. And if there was more than 3 weeks left of school, I might have a different opinion. But at this point, I think that we're doing really well with getting our rates down, and to take a chance for 3 weeks, which really, not to minimize students' mental health, but mostly to go back to school. I agree. I want to comment on this mental health issue.
I don't buy this. I really don't. I mean, I drive around a little bit. The kids are still out playing with their friends. They're out on the streets. I mean, if I drive through some of the subdivisions here, the kids they're yelling car, they're shooting baskets. They're in the playgrounds. They still have their friends. And the kids are extremely resilient. I'm not buying all of this stuff about mental health of children, to be honest.
I do agree with you. I think probably the issue of sending the kids back to school is really for the parents. Give them a break.
Yeah, maybe the mental health of the parents, right? Okay.
I think so. So I think that, again, I think so much comes back to communication and the way all these decisions are communicated to us. Had it been communicated in a different way, people might be more positive about that decision. And, we don't know what Quebec numbers are going to be because of having the kids go back to school. I think, and not to diminish the school issue, I think it's more important to get our economy open and start opening up some of the businesses. And that at this point, to let the schools open for 3 weeks instead of businesses, it's a trade-off, and it has nothing to do with whether we think children in schools are important.
Randy, that's a very, very keen observation. I thank you. Let me ask you this. Should we allow teachers back into the classroom this fall who have not been vaccinated? Do you have any children in the schools?
No, I don't. But
if you did, would you allow an unvaccinated teacher into the classroom with your child?
First of all, I would not want my child in the classroom with the teacher who's unvaccinated because, as you said at the beginning, you can still get COVID. You won't get a very bad case of COVID, but they don't know whether or not you can then pass it on to someone else.
Very true.
I have my own experience with a family member who's in a retirement home, and one of their double vaccinated nurses came down with COVID. So schools, retirement homes, the same. People who work with people in close proximity, it is 100% their choice whether or not to be vaccinated, but it is also the employer's choice whether or not they want them to work there. And we all have choices.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you. I'm tending to agree with you. I just don't understand why we are still allowing unvaccinated people into long-term care. I really don't, because very clearly they're helping to spread the disease. Thank you for your call. Thank you very much. Good call. Shields. Shields right now has a wonderful sale on Frigidaire. Now, many of the other items are also on sale. I want to make that clear. But if you check their website, and it's, as I've said before, it's really a great website. It's one of the better websites I've seen, actually, for businesses in this area. Very professionally done. If you go to shields.ca, SCHEELS.ca, there you'll see the entire product of its appliances and furniture, for that matter. But there's a big sale underway right now on Frigidaire. Everything that Frigidaire makes, which is almost everything in the appliance field, is pretty well on sale. You can save, depending on how much you buy, of course, or what you buy, you can save up to $1,200. It's all very clearly marked. At the Shields, just go there. And when you're dealing with Shields, don't forget, this is in stock. It's in their warehouse. The product is in the warehouse, so you won't have the long wait that you're going to have in many other places. And I think one of the best things of all is you're not shipping your money off to Brazil or China or even the United States. Okay? You're dealing with a long-term Canadian local company, and they're good. Shields.ca. John, back to you. More text, please.
Yes, the number again, 613-413-2217. Really enjoying the phone calls lately, people. Thank you for your calls. And your text as well. Lowell, we can't force people to get vaccinated, so maybe the teachers that don't get it should be forced to teach remotely. And when the remote teachers' spots are taken, the teachers who aren't vaccinated are moved to remote areas of Ontario, which have a very low COVID threat. Let me see. Long Pointers Diver on Twitch says, wouldn't the Charter of Rights and Freedoms prevent mandatory vaccines anyway? The pesky guarantee of liberal and security part.
Well, we compel our children to be vaccinated before they're allowed into the classroom. There are rare exceptions, religious reasons, I guess, or some medical reasons. But essentially, you have to be vaccinated if you want to go to class. And we can't compel people, I guess, adults, to be vaccinated, but we can certainly tell them, okay, you don't have to be vaccinated, but if you're not, you can't teach, you can't go into a classroom. If you're not vaccinated, you can't go into a long-term care home because it's too risky. Your rights should not supersede the rights of our children or our seniors. John, you have more texts coming in?
Lots and lots. Vanda says, Lowell, it's a lack of staffing issue in long-term care. As a future PSW and a mother of a disabled child in a group home, I believe all should be vaccinated. Dean says, I think my dad and his siblings and millions of other kids who lived through World War II in Europe, with schools constantly getting canceled with all the bombings and evacuations, and they grew up to be healthy, productive adults. Children are more resilient than we give them credit for.
Good point. Yep.
Paul says, my thoughts on vaccines is there's not one single person on this earth that knows the long-term effects of them, even short-term. Nobody knows.
Stop, you know what? Stop the nonsense, okay? Get vaccinated. If you don't want to, okay. But, I don't want you teaching children in the classroom, and I don't want you in long-term care, okay? You don't have to get vaccinated, but I don't think that it's right that your rights should supersede the rights of others. Go ahead, John, please.
David says, I'd say yes, but there's such a backlash for those that don't want the vaccines, coincidentally. I can see legal action taking place, people claiming it's against their charter rights. The world is insane right now. Tim says, Jason Kenney's article today in the National Post was one of the best I've read on the scourge of cancel culture. Rewriting history isn't a solution to anything. We need to be aware of it so that we can learn from it.
All right. I have sorry, I want to jump in here. That's my other topic here.
Okay.
What is your opinion, ladies and gentlemen, about the move to tear down statues of Sir John A. Macdonald, Ryerson? These are two of our pioneers who were involved in setting up residential schools. Here in Ottawa, the pressure is on to change the name of the Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway. In my opinion, this is absolute nonsense. I think it's virtue signaling. I think it's people who do this think, oh, well, I'm going to do this. I don't have, I won't have to really help native populations. I can just tear down a statue here or there. But my question to you is this. If we're going to tear down Sir John A. Macdonald's statue, who built this country, who would not have Canada without Sir John A. I'm going to tell you right now, and study your history. British Columbia would be part of the United States of America were it not for Sir John A. and his promise to put a railway through. That's history. Study it. And if you want to tear down his statue, then maybe we should start tearing down the statues of all of the other prime ministers. Sir John A. started the residential. It was his idea, apparently, with the best of intentions. He turned it over to the Catholic Church. And if anybody should accept some blame, it should be the Roman Catholic Church. They're the ones who, as far as we can figure out, did most of the damage here. But if we're going to tear down Sir John's statue, then we better start tearing down, let me see, Pierre Trudeau's statue. He was prime minister for a couple of years while these schools were still in existence. How about Lester Pearson, one of our most revered prime minister? He was prime minister throughout his entire reign here. He was prime minister with the residential still going strong. Mackenzie King, one of the big tourist attractions here is the King Estate. Well, maybe we should change the name of that. Mackenzie King was prime minister when these residential schools were going. Where do we stop? As Jason Kenney said, and I agree, and I'm glad that someone mentioned it, Jason Kenney says, look, if we're going to start tearing down statues of our pioneers, people who built this country, we may as well just cancel the entire Canadian history. It was a different world, and people thought differently, and you know that. Terrible mistakes were made, sometimes with the best of intentions, sometimes not. But, this is part of our history. And one of the things that really concerns me, and I'd like your opinion, is once again, I feel that for many people, they think that all I have to do to fix things here, I don't have to install water in native reserves. I don't have to make sure that they have some hope and jobs. No, we'll just tear down a statue. That'll placate them. Come on. Let me ask you this. The people in some of these remote reserves, what do you think they would prefer? To rename Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway, to tear down Sir John's statue? Or do you think they might prefer some fresh water? Stop tearing down the statues and give them some fresh water. Give them some hope. Give them jobs. Give them a reason to live, for God's sake. This idea, I'm going to tear down a statue, that'll fix it. That fixes nothing. More text coming in. Yes, John.
Yep, 613-413-2217, following Twitch and Facebook in real time. Here's a text that says, I agree about the statues. Leave them alone. This is in vogue now. What will be next? You have to stop the wokeness. Kathy says, leave our history alone, good or bad. Joshua says, those who ignore history are condemned to repeat it. Hazel says, yes, Lowell, Trudeau statue and airport should both go. Peter says, leave the damn history statues up or start with the Trudeau ones first. Rename the airport that has Trudeau Sr. on it. Teach both sides of history. Time cannot be erased, but can be corrected so people can learn from the mistakes. And Ann says, tearing down statues and renaming buildings and streets, our past is our history, and we have no right to erase it.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, Sir John A. was prime minister at the time with the best of intentions. Actually, and I know people get mad when I say this, but in some cases, not them all, but in some cases, Natives came to the government and said, listen, we don't have a school in our place. We need some place where we can send our children. So with the best of intentions, because if you examine history, you'll see that Sir John A. has a pretty good record with some other areas when it deals with Native populations and with women. And aside from all of that, we would not have Canada without him. But if we're going to tear down his statue, okay. But what about all of the other prime ministers? They all knew that these residential schools were up and running. And by the time Mackenzie King came along, there already were rumors of terrible things happening. Did he do anything? Did BR do it? Well, did Lester Pearson do anything? How about Jean Chrétien? Did Chrétien do anything? No. So tear down all of the statues then, folks. If we're going to condemn somebody, one prime minister, then let's tear down all of the statues of all of the prime ministers, including Pierre's. More, John? Have you got more there?
Yep. Carrie says simply fresh water. Micro Gry. Hey, Jay says, you're making my blood boil again, Lowell. The government was totally implicit in the actions against our Indigenous peoples.
Kiss off, Jace. Kiss off. Okay, you've had your say yesterday. But I'll ask you this, Jace. Okay, if we're going to tear down, you're going to tear down Sir John A. You probably know absolutely nothing about Sir John A., that we wouldn't have a country without him. You also probably don't know anything about his other record. And he was quite a liberal, actually, if you checked his record. Study your history, Jace, and then give me a call and give me some facts here, okay? I'm sick and tired of these. You know what, Jace? You're a liberal. Tell your goddamn prime minister to make sure they've got some fresh water in their reserves, okay? Before you tear down a freaking statue of Sir John A., how about putting some fresh water into some of these reserves? Your prime minister, your beloved hero, has been promising for 6 years now to fix the problem, to at least give them some fresh water. Why don't you get after your prime minister to do that? And while you're at it, ask your prime minister to shut the damn airports down and stop the importation of mutations, okay? Leave Sir John A. alone and go after the prime minister we've got now that you support. Go ahead. Did I tell him or what? I'm just sick and tired of this stuff, I mean, why is Sir John A. more guilty than, let us say, Lester Pearson? Or Jean Chrétien? Or Pierre Trudeau? These guys all knew what was going on. They had reports. Did Sir John A. know? I don't know. This was very early in the game. Were there transgressions that early? I don't know, nor do you, Jace, or anybody else. We're almost out of time here. Centennial Glass. I love Jace. I love you, really, I do. But sometimes you drive me nuts.
He's on Twitch right now saying, "I'm a liberal?" ?
Well, you some of you may think you're not, but in many ways you are. Go after the, leave Sir John A. alone. Go after the prime minister. Go after the prime minister. Centennial Glass. If you're in the market for glass of any kind, custom glass furniture, can't stress this enough. They do a beautiful job there. You have an idea, you want to do something, make something. You've got an idea somewhere. You don't know whether it's feasible or not. You don't know what the cost is. Take the idea to Centennial Glass, and they will come up with a plan for you. They will give you a costing, and you can decide whether you want to go ahead or not. You will find them very, very innovative, and their prices are very reasonable, folks. In fact, they claim that they have the best warranty in the business, whether it's windows, doors, screens, repairs, emergency service. Centennial Glass. They're great. CentennialGlass.ca, Industrial Avenue in Ottawa and in Renfrew. No, I know Jace is on the phone now. He's had his say before. Jace, you can call me tomorrow. We're finished for today. Thank you all. Some very good comments today. And as I say, the Premier's office is now listening to the program, either directly or one of the podcasts. So what you say is getting right through to the Premier's office. Thank you. You know what? We all have a voice, unless we don't use it, in which case we don't have a voice. Thank you all. We'll be back.
Lowell Green, live on blasttheradio.com. Show info and links at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Subscribe to the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Google,